It is easy to imagine the lives of our ancient ancestors as nothing but a grim, exhausting struggle for survival, every waking moment spent hunting, gathering, and trying not to die. But that picture is not just incomplete, it is wrong, because the people of the deep past were not so different from us in the ways that matter most. They laughed, they played, they made music and art, they competed and celebrated, and created beauty for no reason other than the joy of it. The human capacity for fun is not a modern luxury. It is ancient, woven into who we are, and the evidence our ancestors left behind proves it. So, what did ancient humans do for fun in a world without any of our modern entertainments? The answer brings them to life in a way that bones and tools alone never could. Let us begin with one of the deepest and most universal human joys, which is art. Deep inside caves across the world, our ancestors left behind some of the most breathtaking creations in all of human history. In places like the famous painted caves of Europe, ancient artists covered the walls with stunning images of the animals that filled their world. Horses, bison, lions, rhinos, rendered with a skill and a power that can still take your breath away tens of thousands of years later. Some of these paintings are extraordinarily old, the work of people reaching deep into the dark with nothing but firelight and homemade pigments to create images of staggering beauty. Now, we do not know exactly why they made this art. It may have had spiritual or ritual meaning. It may have been tied to hunting or storytelling. But whatever its purpose, the act of creating it speaks to a profound human need, the need to make, to express, to capture the world in image and leave something beautiful behind. The cave painters were artists in every sense, and their work is proof that the creative spark burned just as brightly in the deep past as it does today. Art was not limited to cave walls. Our ancestors carved small figurines and sculptures, shaped from stone, bone, and ivory, some of them tens of thousands of years old. They made beads and pendants from shells, animal teeth, and other materials, stringing them together into jewelry. Think about what that means. People were adorning themselves, decorating their bodies, creating objects of beauty to wear long before farming or cities existed. This was personal expression, style, and self-decoration, the same impulse that drives human fashion and adornment to this day. The desire to make yourself and your world more beautiful is not a frivolous modern habit. It is one of the oldest human drives we can trace. Then there is music, perhaps the most enchanting discovery of all. Archaeologists have found ancient flutes carved from bird bone and mammoth ivory that are among the oldest musical instruments ever discovered, dating back tens of thousands of years. Hold that thought for a moment. Our ancestors, in the depths of the Ice Age, took the time and the care to craft instruments and make music. These flutes were carefully made, with finger holes positioned to produce different notes, the work of people who understood and valued melody. And flutes are only the instruments that survived, made of durable bone. We can only imagine the drums, the rattles, the singing, the clapping, all the music made with voice and body and perishable materials that left no trace. Where there is music, there is very likely dancing and rhythm and song shared around the fire. The human love of music is ancient beyond measure, and it must have filled the nights of our ancestors with sound and movement and joy. Play and games were surely part of the picture, too. While games leave fewer traces in the archaeological record than art or instruments, we can be confident they existed because play is not unique to humans. Watch any young animal, any young puppy or young chimpanzee, and you will see play, the practicing of skills, the testing of strength, the simple pleasure of movement. Human children have always played, and human adults have always found ways to compete and amuse themselves. Our ancestors almost certainly invented games of skill and chance, contests of strength and speed, and playful challenges of all kinds. Physical activities, running, throwing, wrestling, climbing, would have been both practice for the serious business of survival and a source of genuine fun and friendly competition. The drive to play, to test ourselves, to turn effort into a game runs deep in our nature, and there is every reason to believe it flourished in the ancient world. And we must not forget the social pleasures, which may have been the greatest fun of all. The richest entertainment in the ancient world was very likely other people. Around the fire at night, our ancestors gathered to tell stories, and storytelling is one of the oldest and most beloved of all human pleasures. A great storyteller could transport their listeners to other places and times, make them laugh, make them gasp, fill the long nights with adventure and meaning. There would have been jokes and laughter, gossip and teasing, the warm and endlessly entertaining business of human company. Feasts and celebrations almost certainly marked important moments, a successful hunt, a gathering of distant groups, the changing of the seasons. These were occasions for sharing food, music, dancing, and stories, for coming together in joy. The deep human love of a celebration, of gathering to eat and laugh and dance, is not a modern invention either. It is something our ancestors knew well. What ties all of this together is a simple but important truth. Fun was not a distraction from survival. It was part of survival. Art, music, play, and celebration all strengthened the bonds that held communities together. And those bonds were exactly what kept people alive in a dangerous world. A group that laughed together, made music together, and celebrated together was a group that trusted and supported one another, that worked well as a team, that wanted to stay together. The shared joy of a song or a story or a feast was a kind of glue, binding people into the tight communities that survival demanded. Fun and survival were not opposites. They were partners. It is also worth recognizing what the existence of all this art and music tells us about the inner lives of our ancestors, because it is something profound. To make a painting deep in a cave, to carve a flute, to string a necklace of shells requires more than skill. It requires imagination, the ability to picture something that does not yet exist and then bring it into being. It requires a sense of beauty, an appreciation of form and sound and color for their own sake. And it requires the leisure and the will to spend precious time and energy on something that does not directly fill the stomach or fend off a predator. The presence of art and music in the deep past is proof that our ancestors had rich inner worlds, that they experienced wonder and beauty and the deep human urge to create. They were not merely surviving, they were living, in the fullest sense, with minds as capable of awe and creativity as our own. It is also worth remembering that this love of beauty and play was not the property of some special class of artist set apart from everyone else. In the small, close-knit groups our ancestors lived in, there were no professional musicians or full-time painters supported by everyone else's labor. The person who carved the flute also hunted and gathered. The hands that painted the cave walls also made tools and tended the fire. Art, music, and play were woven into the fabric of ordinary life, shared by people who were also doing the hard daily work of survival. This makes their creativity all the more remarkable. They did not make beauty because they had nothing better to do. They made it in the midst of a demanding and often dangerous life, because the urge to create, to play, and to celebrate was simply part of who they were, as it is part of who we are.
The artist and the hunter were the same person, and that tells us that the creative spirit is not a luxury added on top of human nature. It is woven right through the center of it. So, the next time you imagine our ancient ancestors, do not picture only grim, struggling figures hunched against a hostile world. Picture them too gathered around a fire, listening rapt to a storyteller, music rising from a bone flute into the night. Picture an artist deep in a cave, working by firelight to bring a magnificent bison to life on stone. Picture children playing and adults laughing, people wearing necklaces of shell and bone they made themselves, a whole community coming together to feast and dance and celebrate being alive. These were not just survivors, they were creators, musicians, artists, storytellers, and players, fully human in their hunger for beauty and joy. The capacity for fun, for art, for music, for laughter and celebration is one of the oldest and most precious parts of our inheritance. Our ancestors did not merely endure their world, they found ways to delight in it, and in doing so, they left behind a legacy of joy that still echoes in everything we create and celebrate today. In the joy our ancestors made and shared across all those thousands of years, we can recognize ourselves. And that recognition is one of the most powerful gifts that the study of our deep past can offer. Their delight in being alive echoes down to us still.